Okay, I think we'll get started. And I'd like to introduce you actually to the co-host I have this afternoon. So Kirsty Joynson, who you can see there on the screen, is our marketing director at MPG, and she heads up our team of event marketers who are currently working on various types of challenges around helping clients with postponed event marketing campaigns and other challenges that they have. And I will be leading the webinar. So I will be doing a presentation for the next 35, 40 minutes or so, sharing all of the insights that we've gathered over the last couple of weeks with you. And then Kirsty will be helping facilitate the Q&A. So thank you very much, Kirsty. We also have George Mendham on the line and Dominic Bird, who are our webinar production team, who are helping us make sure the webinar runs smoothly. Thank you very much, guys. So if you could all participate, please, today by submitting your questions. So if you look on the bottom left of your screen, bottom kind of middle of your screen, and the second button from the left is a little Q&A button. If you could submit any of your questions there as we go through the presentation, just keep putting your questions in there. We will select some questions at the end that we feel we can answer well for you. And the ones that we can't answer because we don't have time, or the ones that we think need a bit more thought, we'll go away and work on and provide answers for you in the Q&A document, which Q&A summary, which we will circulate early next week, along with all of these slides and the video recording. So please do contribute your questions. It really enriches the experience for everyone and helps us create some really valuable content after the event to share with everybody. So who's in the room today? Who's joined you on this webinar? We're event marketers, so we like to tell you how many people are around. So we had about 180 plus registrants. The last webinar we did had a 50% conversion rate from registrant to attendee. So we're guessing we'll have about 90 people on this webinar, which is fantastic. We know some people are joining from far away, from other countries, not just the UK. So welcome everybody. We had a quick look at the registrants list earlier, and we think we have about 50% marketers, 30% CEOs and MDs, and about 20% other, which concludes a graphic designer. We have some content people. We have some very senior people actually who've joined this call. You know who you are. Thanks for coming along. And then these represent various types of organizations that are mainly, but not entirely, mainly B2B media, running kind of subscriptions businesses or various content-led businesses, B2B events businesses that pretty much only run events, corporates, some of the companies we work with who run events for their corporate marketing, freelancers as well, welcome. We know it's tough for you guys at the moment, so we're pleased you can join us, and vendors. So we know there's some of our competitors on here, which we completely welcome because we're all in this together, as they say. So please do submit your questions as well. We'd love to hear what's top of mind for you, because you're probably seeing things from a similar angle as we are. So a bit about webinars. If you don't really run a lot of webinars yourselves these days, or if you do, if you're quite a seasoned webinar pro, this is just something I can share with you about this immediate webinar. Hot topics are good for webinars because they need to be highly current and highly relevant to the situation we are in right now, as this webinar is. So hot topic webinars always attract a lot of interest. 60 minutes work well. So I've been on a lot of webinars over the last week, as I'm sure you all have. And I do find the ones that go on for more than 60 minutes a little bit difficult to stay on board with. Anything less than 60 minutes tends to be too short. It's not, the value isn't quite there. So our view is 60 minutes works really well for this type of format, this type of content. You can market a webinar with a 2-day lead time. So we announced this webinar 2 days ago. We've got 90 attendees probably. So you can turn these around really, really quickly. It's no trouble at all. And then apart from the lead time, it's just worth bearing in mind that this type of digital event, this type of virtual event, marketing an event like this is very much like marketing any other a live event, in fact. So you use, we used email. We emailed people who had subscribed to our updates. We used social media. We leveraged some advocates. We went to some media partners. So we just distributed this message via various channels as you would as a live event marketer. And the same kinds of things worked, quite frankly. So that the marketing skills you use for live events are very transferable to the online format. And thank you, friends. So there are a lot of people on this webinar today, and really thank you for being so collaborative. All of the clients and partners that we've been working with have been super collaborative in how we've been tackling the challenges at the moment. This is uncharted territory. I think uncharted is spelled incorrectly. Apologies. Uncharted territory. The most important thing is that before we try and find the answers, we are asking the right questions. So what we focused on as a team, starting 2 or 3 weeks ago, was we all got together in a room and we said, we don't know what the answers are. This is, completely unprecedented. We've never had to deal with this kind of situation before. Let's think about the right questions to ask first. And then let's ask those of our clients, of ourselves, and ask them of the group and brainstorm and find the answers. It's very important to consider the short, medium, and long term. The short-term actions we take have medium and long-term implications. So think about those things before you do anything too suddenly short-term. Give yourself and others permission to change your minds and plans based on changing circumstances. So what we find is that it's really, really important to just be forgiving to people who are doing their very, very best to make decisions, tough decisions in difficult times. And, it's important that we are just patient with one another and help one another find our way through. If we have to reverse a decision, change our minds, come up with a new plan, that's really, really important. So I realize I haven't told you who MPG is, and you may not know much about us. And when I talk about friends, you may not know who our friends are or who we are. So very quickly, we are a marketing consultancy and agency. We have 2 brands, MPG and agency, and we work with a variety of different B2B media businesses and events organizers, helping them attract audiences to their events. So some of our clients at the moment are going virtual, completely virtual. So we are rewriting the campaign plans to help them do that. Not huge rewrites, just some tweaks really. We are also helping our clients with postponed events, a lot of postponed events at the moment, and working very hard actually on the subscriptions marketing piece, because suddenly there's subscriptions have become really, really important for our clients. So there's a lot more focus on that. So thank you for joining us, friends. Thank you for being here, and your Q&A, your questions you ask are key to our collaboration. Another couple of points: avoid knee-jerk reactions. That's really important. Think things through. Try not to kind of panic. That's really, really key at the moment. Don't believe everything that the tech vendors tell you. As a marketer, I've become very skeptical of some of the tech vendors who promise the world, and then you find once you actually bought the software and start using it that it's really tricky to work in some ways. It doesn't quite work as the way you thought it would based on the sales pitch. There's some very good vendors out there. I think we're finding out who they are daily. And so tech is our friend, but just be a little bit aware of, mindful that the ones who come across as all-in-one solutions probably will do most things fairly well, but there will be quite a lot of features they offer that don't work exactly as you want them to. So I think just a little bit of wariness around what your expectations are about what this tech can do. And keep calm and carry on. So that's our mantra at the moment: keeping calm and carrying on. It's the best, focusing on the best we can do to try and reassure our communities through these tricky times. So today's focus is not actually looking beyond where we are now. So we know that there's a great opportunity to create new digital formats to complement our events. But today, what we are actually focusing on is postponed events. So we're focusing on postponed events, and we know that we can build some digital inventory into those events, whether we are working within the coronavirus era or afterwards. That's really important. So look at between your events that you have planned, how you can build in some more digital formats like webinars, like roundtable meetings done as a conference call, some online virtual events as well that you might discover have a strong uptake, but maybe the smaller formats might be better. So think about the year-round engagement. Also think about your written content, all the other forms of content you have, and consider how you can build those into your offering at the moment, so that your clients have something to work with. During your events, consider if you are still planning live events soon or in future, think about how you can build digital elements into your live events. So an example would be live streaming a speaker into your event if you're still planning to bring people together, or videoing content from your event. I'm sure you've all kind of thought about these things already and heard about them. Immediately after the event, for stronger retention and overall general engagement. So think about these digital formats. If you're planning to continue with your live events, which I hope some of you are, you do need to consider how to bring digital into your events. However strong events come back after this, it is going to be incredibly important. So new marketing approaches you need to think about are around promoting additional digital elements to your engagement with your community, building and maintaining engagement via learning and networking opportunities online, and retaining and growing your revenue this year and in the future years. These are the things that we need to be thinking about. So we've touched on those today in terms of, you know, what's going to happen when everything calms down a little bit. We don't know when that's going to be, but really what we, I think, need to think about to keep ourselves calm and carry on is the practical next steps. There's a lot of theory out there. We're doing a lot of reading, researching, thinking about what the future might hold, but really we have to act on quite a lot of the priorities that are immediately evident now, that we need to make decisions on and do things about immediately. So we're assuming that at the moment that many live events will survive the virus. Some will go completely virtual and stay virtual. Some will just go virtual for a little while and then go back to a live format or some live elements. We're assuming that all remaining live events will need digital enhancement. So I think we're beyond the stage of thinking we can just carry on as we were with mostly live formats without any digital or very few digital elements attached to them. And we're also assuming that most of us are really focusing on still 2020 revenue. It's really important for our organizations that we keep that revenue coming in, that we maintain it, that we are able to deliver value for our clients for the money they have handed over and will continue to hand over to us, hopefully. So the additional resources that you might want to look at the end of this presentation. So on the final slide here, I have some resources listed with some links that will be useful for you around all sorts of considerations for event organizers, to do with health and safety, to do with insurance, to do with decision making about whether or not you run your event or postpone it or cancel it, and some really useful information on digital tools for event organizers. So that will come at the very end when you're thinking about your product, etc., and you'll be able to refer to those. But for now, another couple of resources. So we published 2 blogs last week on the immediate actions, the kind of practical next steps that you might want to read later. Some of that is in these slides, but these slides really are quite enhanced content. They're kind of richer content than what is in those blogs. And next week we'll be publishing some more blogs. So just keep an eye on those. The most important thing again is to remember that today we'll focus on postponed events because that seems to be the most practically relevant, activity that we need to focus on for most people. But most points that we covered today around postponed events are actually transferable to all sorts of other scenarios when marketing events. So a lot of what we cover, you can apply to live events happening in future, postponed events, events that have not been postponed. So just have a look for that transferable knowledge. Okay, now we get into the good stuff. So 4 key considerations. So this is all about asking the right questions, really, and understanding the situation we're in. So the first thing that struck us when we were looking at the postponed events that our team has to deal with is that we have more lead time, which is a great gift to any event marketer. So the question is, what are we going to do with those extra weeks and months that we suddenly got available within our campaign timelines? So we'll look at that, but also consider we've got a lot more competition. So there are a lot of events now bunched into the second half of the year, postponed events, events that were meant to run in the second half of the year. Lots of digital content and networking opportunities are now going to start competing with those live events as well. But that's not all bad news, because we can, create a really strong, engaging campaign that will keep the people who we've already got on board with our events engaged, and hopefully bring some more on. There's a real opportunity for that. But we need to consider that we have shorter cycles for our 2021 events if we're keeping our 2020 events in the same spot in H1 this year that they were originally going to be in. If we've postponed them to H2, we have shorter sales cycles and shorter marketing cycles and shorter production cycles. So that's a real consideration for businesses at the moment. And it's a great time to try new things. So there's a lot of things that we are going to have to do now as marketers that we've been wanting to do for quite a long time. Things that we've been trying to push hard, like content marketing and more digital elements to our marketing, like webinars, that always kind of got pushed to the bottom of the list when we were thinking about priorities. And a lot of us, were able to do those things in some of our campaigns, but in many instances, budgets just didn't allow, or they just didn't seem to be a need. But now we're going to be able to try all of those new things. We'll have to try them, which is great news. 5 important questions. So we'll start with these 5 questions, and then we'll start getting into the answers. First one is, how can we keep our delegates who've already committed to our events, and also our other stakeholders, speakers, etc., engaged and committed to attending our events? How can we keep them committed to our brand? Essentially, our event is a value proposition with a brand, and we need to get them to continue believing in our brand and having confidence that we're going to help them with the content and networking opportunities that they need eventually, hopefully sooner than later. Second question, how do we keep our sponsors and exhibitors committed and well served? By this, I mean our sponsors and exhibitors still need to reach the audiences we were going to help them reach with our event. We still need to help them do that. So we need to think really creatively about how we can create that additional inventory between now and our event, our postponed event, to make sure that our sponsors and exhibitors are getting the value for money that they're looking for, are getting a good ROI, and are in fact being supported, because they desperately need our help during this time to make sure that they can reach the audiences they need to reach to achieve the goals they need to achieve. Thirdly, how can I upsell and cross-sell to a subscription or membership if I have one? So if you're one of those brands or organizations that has got a subscriptions model, ideally paid for, or some kind of membership offering, where the content that is served up through that subscription or membership is similar to what would normally be presented in the event, now is a great time to encourage the people who were coming to your event to start engaging with those subscriptions and memberships. We know just from having done a lot of analysis across various brands and all sorts of industries globally, that there's usually quite a limited crossover between event attendees and subscribers, which is quite strange. It's not always the case, but it's often the case. Sometimes kind of 10% seems to be a number that floats around. So it's really, really important that you think about how you can now start bringing people more into digitally engaging with you. If you don't already have some kind of subscription or membership offering, now's the time to start laying those foundations. So how can you do that? But by foundations, we mean foundations. So we know it's difficult and expensive to build a subscription or membership offering. I have seen some advisors to B2B events businesses advising them to look for partnerships with media businesses who've got online digital magazine-based content, but not a very strong event offering at the moment. So look for those partnerships, see how you can work with those organizations to help one another during this time. And finally, the fifth important question is how can I bring in more revenue for my 2020 event? Not only how can I retain the revenue, which is part of question number one, but how can I bring in even more revenue? And there is the possibility to do this if we remain focused and we do the right things. So if your event is postponed, the first thing that we recommend to everyone we talk to at the moment is focus on lead generation. Avoid book now messages in all of your comms for at least, I'd say, 3 or 4 weeks to come, at least. The really good news is that you have a fantastic opportunity while everyone is at home having lots more time than they used to, in front of their computers, looking to engage with the world digitally. You can really capture the details of the people who are most interested in what you have to offer and who you can serve best. So focus on that. So people may not want to book yet, but you can still convert them to someone who is engaging with you, to someone who you can recognize, whose name and details you have, who essentially becomes a customer immediately as soon as they filled in a form on your website. They become a customer to you, someone you can serve, someone you can engage with. That's really important. So whether you're going to end up bringing them to your postponed event or bringing them to next year's event or inviting them to become a subscriber, these are really, really important leads right now. And now is a good time to be generating those leads. Also plan for extra lead conversions activities closer to the event. So build up your lead pool, build up your kind of list of people who are interested in attending your event, and then make sure that closer to the event, when you are confident the event will in fact take place on the dates that you have planned, make sure you have strong conversion activities. So those conversion activities are likely to be email and telesales. So please try and keep your telesales capability available for when that time arises, whatever that might be. So you may have telesales people on your team or freelancers you use, or you may outsource that telesales function. These are the kinds of suppliers and vendors and people who we are going to need in the future. And they would need to be very, very focused on converting those leads when the time is right. And you're probably going to have to act really quickly when you know that time is right. Consider sponsors' needs for leads. So consider how they need to gain value from your event and how you can help them. So think about co-creating webinars, co-creating white papers, getting a lot of content from them, putting that on your website so that they can have those leads and you can also have them for your event. So that's really, really important. Optimize your website for calls to action that point to the following types of forms. So register your interest, subscribe for updates, download something, attend a webinar. These are all really, really key. Something I just realized I might not have stressed enough before I started the lead generation conversation was that obviously as soon as you postpone an event, you need to tell the world about it. And they are specific. So before you start trying to generate leads, you need to tell people you're postponing your event. So this is what was included in one of the blogs in the previous slide. So if you're wondering about postponing your event in very soon and you need to know how to communicate that kind of crisis communication, that urgent communication with your community, have a look at one of the blogs that I referenced earlier, just to go back to that point very briefly. Okay, so focus on lead generation, get your leads in, get engaging with the people who are most interested in the content and the networks and the community that you serve. Absolutely critical. The next thing you need to do is think about how you can grow your database for your 2020 event that's happening, future events and other offerings, digital offerings, subscriptions and webinars, etc. So obviously the most obvious way to grow your database is to generate the leads via your website that we've just been talking about. Everyone who fills in a form on your website becomes either a cleaner, more updated record in your database, or becomes someone who was never on your database before, so a new record on your database. So when you get people to fill in these website forms, having those forms on your website is critical, and encouraging people to fill them in and having good customer journeys on your website to get people to those forms. When they're there, ask them what they're interested in. Ask them if they're interested in sponsoring or attending your event or exhibiting or being a speaker. And you might add to that list, are they interested in a subscription? Are they interested in webinars? So think about that list of options you give them, because then you can engage with them in the right way. You can serve them very in a very customized, tailored way. Do more data research. So we know that it is possible and very well kind of used technique to use research firms. There are a lot in India. You can use some big databases as well that we draw on to add more names to your database. So often when we're leading up to an event and we have very little lead time, this is the kind of thing that happens too late. So you have more time now, and you have time to think about who you actually want to be reaching with your event, who you want to be reaching in your community, who is your community. And we always recommend starting with your top name. So it could be top 30 or 50 or 100 or 1,000. And by that, we mean the companies. So who are the top companies in the world that you want to be engaging with your brand, whether it's an event or whatever you want to be selling in future, subscriptions or events or webinars. Think about who those top customers are that you want. Map those against the people you already have on your database, the people who are already attending your events, and find those gaps. Look for the gaps in your data and use this time to fill those gaps. It's not a very costly exercise, especially if you're being really, really targeted about who you're going after. Get more media partners on board. Point the communications to their community towards the forms on your website. So when you are dealing with media partners, don't get them to push out book now messages. Be really careful about the messages they're pushing out. Make sure the messages they're pushing out are sending people to those forms on your website so they can fill in those forms and then maintain engagement with you and be kept updated with you. Add more content to your website and share this via social media to increase web traffic and more leads on your website. So these kinds of things, data research, media partners, content marketing, social media, these are the kinds of things that, quite frankly, tend to just get undercooked quite a lot with events because we run out of time or we run out of budget or we kind of think about it too late. So these are the areas that are really important that you really need to start working on now, and with the time that you have available, the extra lead time leading up to your event. The next thing you should think about, and this isn't often a marketer's job, this is often something that the producers or the content people or the product people need to be thinking about, but I'd recommend you challenge them on this. So think about, with the time you have available, the extra time you have between now and the event, build extra value in. Add additional digital elements to your event now, whether they're webinars leading up to the event or just simply videoed content. So if you can promise your attendees, people who book a ticket, people who pay for a ticket, that they are going to get all the content from the event, whether they attend or not, that's really, really key. So, and also add digital networking opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have. You've probably all now heard about Guild, they've put out Guild, the professional networking app, and they've put out a really useful guide for event organizers. That's a great way to keep your community talking to one another and give them that value through networking. So build that value in now, that online networking, that online content. And I've mentioned there a supplier called Banumi Pro, who have a fantastic solution Really cost effective. Using your mobile phone, you can video your whole event, get that video edited and get it onto your website straight after the event, which is a really easy way to kind of digitize your event if you don't feel confident doing anything more like live streaming, etc. You could add a digital twin alternative for those who can't attend. So quite a lot of event organizers are considering running their full event as planned in the postponed dates, but then also live streaming the whole event. So if you do this, I recommend you do charge a fee. Don't just let people who are attending digitally attend for free. That's not a great idea. You're devaluing your content. You are reducing your ability to invest properly in your product. So make sure that you charge a fee if you can. Invite top speakers that were previously unavailable. If there were some key names you tried to get on board before and they weren't available, do it now before your competitors get them. So, and the great thing is that you can now get them to live stream to your event. So if they don't want to attend in person, they might not want to say yes, but get them, set them up so they can live stream into your event. They're bound to say yes then. They also want to speak at events. They want these opportunities. Stand out from the crowd. Think about paying an out-of-the-box speaker who can be from anywhere in the world and run that live stream into your event, whether it's into your venue for a live event or just online. And this would be a really good investment to stand out from the crowd. It's going to be a very crowded space in the events world and digitally in the coming months. So think about how you can bring some a real buzz into your event and your campaign. Think about adding subscriber and member only content into your event, into your networking sessions as well. So you could present unique industry research that maybe only subscribers get, or unique networking opportunities that only subscribers get. So convert your delegates into subscribers by presenting the subscription offering as a really valuable offering for them. Do more and better content marketing. If you don't already have a resource bank on your event website, add one now. It should be a really quick and easy thing to do. It needs to include articles, white papers, blogs, presentations from previous years, new videos of webinars that you're creating. All of that is going to be incredibly important to your community right now. You're going to probably have to include coronavirus themed content, as much as sometimes we think we'd like to steer clear of that subject. It's unavoidable. It's what every single business is thinking about right now. And we can't avoid the topic. We want to cover it anyway. It's really, really important. And enable the knowledge sharing by making sure that you're putting out the content about coronavirus issues for your industry. You can include simple listings. Some of the most useful resources I've found over the last 2 weeks have been people who've put together lists of resources that I can go to and use. And this is something you can add to your website very easily. Get your speakers to do Q&As. Get them to kind of record something as a webinar style format and put that on as a video audio on your website. I think we've all got a little bit less worried about the perfection in the content we're putting forward. I know when I've thought about video, I've always thought we can only do it if we do it really well, and that's going to cost a lot of money. I think we need to all compromise on our standards a little bit. Just get the content out there. Try and create something as great as you can in terms of quality, but don't let a low budget or a reluctance around being confident in the quality stop you from creating this digital content and putting it out there. Obviously, webinars, there's a lot you can do with webinars and content marketing, which I've included here, which you can refer back to later. Get your sponsors, obviously, to provide some content, so white papers, videos, etc., and share this via your website. This is the perfect time. The perfect way to do content marketing is via email. So you might be adding a lot of content to your website, and if you push this out by email in a newsletter, say weekly or bi-weekly, that's a great way to engage people. It could also be the start of your subscription. If you don't have a subscription offering at the moment, this is a really, really good place to start. A lot of the clients we work with have actually started their subscription or their membership offering by just running a newsletter. So it's a really good thing to do right now. Make the newsletter valuable and unique. So don't do it too often. If you need to do it every 2 weeks or once a month to make sure it's valuable and unique, that's what you need to do. Weekly at most is our recommendation. If it's a new thing, you might already have a newsletter, you might already be sending something out daily. Great, carry on doing that. Make sure it's got the right stuff in it. But if you haven't got one, weekly at most probably. Feature your marketing content and your event updates in this newsletter, and ensure the branding is really strong. The design, the tone of voice, that's really key, because that visual branding and the way that clients are going to engage with your brand online is going to really help you build that trust with your community. Send it to all your event stakeholders. So whether they've subscribed or not, if someone's booked a delegate place or become a lead for your event, start sending them this newsletter. Obviously, it is consent-based, so you need to be not necessarily consent-based. You need to consider consent issues if you're in, especially if you're in some of those more sensitive countries. But if they've booked a delegate place, or if they've expressed an interest in your event, I think you've got a good reason to be emailing them something once a week until the event takes place. Keep the newsletter simple. Try and create a template which has a formula, kind of a formulaic approach, where you can have, say, a speaker of the week who's profiled, 3 things we learned over the past week that are useful for your industry, for example, event news, updates, new speakers, the latest content that you've published, the latest webinar that you've made available to your community. That's really important to put in there. Grow revenue and goodwill by adding value. So we don't think it's a good idea to start throwing some more early bird pricing into your campaign cycle. If you've run out of early birds, if you've already got early birds coming up, great, use those in the best way possible, but don't add more. Rather add value. So think about upselling and cross-selling to a subscription or a membership. Consider offering a free upgrade to a subscription or membership for 6 months. That will be really helpful to your community right now, and will probably make them quite loyal to you if they find what you are selling really useful, and they'll probably start paying for that subscription when they can. Offer family tickets, so group tickets, 4 for 3, for example. This is, and think about how you can make that stand out. So about calling them family tickets, you make that a little bit more exciting than a group discount. And these times, I think people, probably will warm to the idea of a family ticket as a company. Offer 2-year tickets. So offer them, if they buy a 2020 ticket, you can give them a 2021 ticket half price or even free. Some organizers we know are giving them 2 years tickets, 2020 and 2021, as for the price of one. Make sure that whatever you offer new delegates who book on, you obviously also offer people who've already paid their money to attend your event and are being transferred onto the Postponed event. If you have a 2 or 3 day event, offer an extra day for free to book to new delegates. That's a really easy way to engage them and reward them for their loyalty. So think about doing that. And just a little out of the box idea, you could offer a free service for a limited number of tickets. For a limited number of tickets to some free sponsor services. So just an example I threw in there, a free day as an advice from a consultancy firm for the next 10 people who book their tickets. Will generate some great leads for your sponsors, some great engagement for them, and also allow you to sell tickets, and such a nice value add. So think about those. Promote and sell your subscriptions via your event. If you have a subscriptions product, now's the time to integrate that with your event sale. So book delegates, you can run a dedicated campaign that's upselling to your subscription. By offering subscription-only content or privileges at the event, for example, you can offer them a fast-track registration desk. You can give them a gold badge that makes them feel special. You can give them an invitation-only breakfast or lunch, behind closed-door sessions, VIP dinners where they can meet the speakers, premium lounges. These are things that don't cost a huge amount, but you can give the people who are buying subscriptions from you and memberships some extra value if they attend your events. And reserved seating is another one. So this can also incentivize people to book a place and buy a membership at the same time, or people who have already booked and aren't members to buy a membership, which is important. You can plan some on-site subscriptions, marketing and sales. Whether on-site means at a live event or during the digital event, now's your time to think about your sales strategy, to schedule sales meetings in and around your event. Focus on those enterprise opportunities, those big value tickets. Those ticket sales will become really, really key to you. Those sorry, the big item tickets, so the high order value items where you're selling multi-user subscriptions, multi-seat licenses. Think about how you can use your networking zone to promote what you have to offer with your subscription and your memberships. Think about videos and holding slides between talks, whether they're online or on the stage. Think about how you can use your event app to run a special at-only event offer for people who want to upgrade to membership. And also, obviously, think about using your event app to get your audience networking online. So you can release your event app early, get them on there, give them special access to special content and networking opportunities if they are members. These are all things that can be built in. And special prominent signage so that people who have got gold badges can see where they need to go to get this extra content and value. And people who don't ask, how can I get a gold badge? By becoming a member, of course. Ongoing measurement and analysis is key because we are now in real test and learn territory. We're doing a lot of new things for the first time, and we won't know if they're working unless we're analyzing them and measuring them. Monitor where your delegate ticket sales and subscription purchases are coming from, channels and tactics. Monitor the engagement levels, that's really key, and conversions to leads. Don't stop measuring your marketing because you're not going to get bookings in the next few weeks. Keep measuring the engagement and measure the leads. Where are they coming from? Who's engaging? Who's not engaging? This is really important. Track your subscriptions and membership sales numbers and revenue that's associated with your event. So where you've been able to convert an event delegate to a subscriber member, understand who those people are, understand what their profile is, what they responded to, work out if they acquired, what their profile is, how you can go after more of those people, and consider if they are renewals, if you're getting people to renew memberships because of events engagements, and work out what that lifetime value model looks like for you. Monitor the profile of the delegates who are purchasing the digital alternative. It's really important to understand who those people are, and monitor the engagement with any digital assets of your event. It's good, you really need to understand how people are engaging with the digital alternative to your event or the digital add-ons. And all of these you need to consider in the context of the strategy that you're going to be following as a business. So we're all going to be relooking at our strategies. We're all going to be thinking about where to invest. So think about those before. When you want to know what to measure, think about what matters. Think about what your strategy is going to be, and therefore what those data points are that really are going to count when it comes to building intelligence to inform your strategy. Final thing to kind of run through very quickly is to think about that shorter lead time. Beware of the 2021 shorter event and campaign cycles. Think about, can your content team start now or earlier? Can they start before the 2021 event to build the 2020 event to build the 2021 program? Can sponsorship and exhibition sales start selling before this year's event to the next year's event? Can you increase your on-site rebooks? You need a really solid strategy for that, so you can get lots of that interest in bookings and revenue in early on, and think about what additional digital you'll be adding to your 2021 events. Think about how that's going to flow into your marketing. Think about how that's going to be packaged up to maximize revenue. Here's some more questions we thought of that aren't really related to this really, but you can have a read of them after this webinar. Think about how you can use your resources in different ways, get your producer doing more content marketing, getting your ops people involved in marketing, getting all of your people more trained up on digital platforms. That's really important. And then think about how this is going to change your events and your business model in the longer term. Think about how it will allow you to reach your wider market. Think about how you can help your sponsors get more qualified leads all year round. There are lots of these considerations, which we won't go into right now. Another quick thing to say is think about where you need to invest. So your digital infrastructure, your data, your brand, your messaging, the measurement are all absolutely key. So these are investment areas you need to consider. Make test and learn approach part of your DNA. Everything you're going to be doing is testing and learning. And make sure you have people who are digitally confident in your team. Train them, upskill them. Make sure they're quick learners, and make sure they're community focused, that they're thinking about your community. These are the good resources I mentioned. You can go back to them after the webinar from various people who put some really good stuff together to help event organizers. Now we're going to go into the Q&A. So this is where we have Kirsty joining us, who will be able to help us with, who will be able to do our Q&A for us.
Okay, so one of the first questions that came in was from Sarah. To maintain revenue, wouldn't it make more sense to make most events fully digital rather than postponing?
That's a good question. To maintain revenue, should we make our events completely digital rather than postpone? I think, like a lot of answers to questions like that, we start with that depends. It depends on your audience. It depends on when you're postponing your event to. It depends what your digital options are. So I think the way I'd start answering that questions, and then Kirsty can add to that, is that in investigating how companies are going to retain their revenue and grow their revenue in digital options, the model is completely different. Not 100% different, but very different. So the way in which sponsors get value from a sponsorship is much more about reach and volume of leads, but then we need to think about helping them qualify those leads in some way. So just consider that. Also, the way that delegates get value from your event. If you've got if you've got a free to attend event, great, go for it, I think. As long as the delegates can still gain the value from the event that they would have otherwise done. So if you've got an event that relies on people kind of touching and feeling equipment, if you kind of have people there showcasing industrial equipment as part of your show, then no, I don't think you can actually get that value very, very well as a delegate, even if you're attending for free. It's really, really difficult. So think very carefully about how you would communicate that that kind of experience for an attendee to an event. If your delegates are paying a relatively modest fee, so a few £100, a few $100, it's quite possible to take that virtual, but make sure that you're using very engaging, very high quality content, and that you're delivering it well, and that they also can access that content after the event. That's really, really key. If you are charging thousands of pounds for a ticket, then you have a different challenge altogether. Then you probably need to think about a combination of delivering some virtual, really unique, valuable virtual content to those people who are often very senior decision makers, in a way that really suits them, that allows them to learn from that content as much as they can. But actually for them, the networking is probably more important. So think about how you can bring them into really exclusive networking spaces, where they can talk freely, where they can debate some really difficult issues, especially at the moment with businesses facing coronavirus impact. Think about how you can create those spaces for them online, and you might be able to actually do some offline stuff as well. So when restrictions are lifted a little bit, and we can start gathering even locally in smaller groups, you might want to start organizing some roundtable events that maybe 4 or 5 people can attend, and then recording those and sharing that video content. So I think rather than thinking just about going from live to virtual, think about all the options in between, and the value that your audience and your sponsors are going to get, and coming up with possibly a hybrid model. Kirsty, do you have anything to add to that?
I think the only other thing to add to that is thinking about practicalities. So, being really honest and thinking, do you have the technology infrastructure expertise within your business currently to enable you to do something like this and execute it quite quickly and under pressure, given that you're probably going to be looking at a very short lead time to source the technology, get everyone trained up on it in order to run a digital event really smoothly. And then also, Helen kind of touched on it around your audience, are they used to consuming content online? Are they going to be people who are going to be able to, use this technology, gain the value from it that you've intended to? Or is it something you're going to have to build up over time in order to get your audience and your organization used to enhancing digital elements within your current events in order to go fully virtual?
Thank you, Kirsty.
Okay, another question we've got is, what would you What would you do differently if your delegates are all health professionals who are on the front line of patient care?
So I'm assuming that you are definitely postponing your event for now, if it's anytime soon. So if it's in the first half of the year, then I would strongly recommend that you postpone to the second half of the year. If you are thinking about running an event for health professionals with a live element anytime this year, I would strongly recommend you record all the content and make it available for them to view and consume offline. Not offline, sorry, after the event. They might want to attend an event if it's safe to do so, if the government guidance allows them to do that, maybe, September, October time. But whatever you do, make sure they can have that content after the event, because they might not be able to attend. And they might be able to consume that content, view the videos, etc. on a day off, which they would probably find really valuable, because if they're dealing with some of these kind of frontline issues and a lot of the content will be about how to deal with these issues, then you should probably serve them in that way. Kirsty, do you have anything to add?
No, I think, like you said, I think just making sure all the content is available on demand, so they're able to view it when they're able to. But I'm assuming at a time like this, there's probably a need for this kind of community to come together, even if it's just to kind of share stories, empathize with one another, and provide solutions. So it might be more kind of having that community lead their own event in terms of more of a kind of online discussion might be more valuable to them at this stage.
Right, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, we are trying to put more content on, however, like everyone, we also need revenue. So the sales team want content sponsored, which holds up what we can put out. Any experience of this? So basically with that question, because they're wanting to, I guess, generate revenue via the content they're putting out, how do they balance this with the time it takes to create that content?
So Kirsty, we assume that generating revenue means they've got the webinars sponsored, for example?
Yes, yes.
Do you have some thoughts on that?
So I think obviously either having the webinar sponsored, or I guess creating some sort of white paper or report as well, that's hugely valuable, that people can pay to actually download and consume. We do have experience of sponsors offering this up within kind of their own package. So having this as part of the sponsorship package that will also add value to obviously the event and the attendees, but I'm not sure this is something that we've got experience of right now.
I think what it is when I guess sponsorship salespeople want to sell, want to retain their sponsorship revenue that would have been attached to an event, to enhance the sponsorship revenue by, for example, putting webinars on that they weren't otherwise planning, and thinking about just selling webinars to a new sponsor who they might not have engaged with before in order to bring revenue in. Generally, I think if it's good sponsored content, if the content is good and high quality and valuable to the audience, then you can achieve both things that you're trying to achieve. So you can generate sponsorship revenue, and you can serve your audience well with some free content. But that's where that kind of editorial piece really comes into play, and really being quite firm with your sponsors about not just putting sales messages out. So they shouldn't be 30 minutes or 3 hour sales pitches. They definitely need to be valuable to the audience. They need to meet a need. The content needs to be really useful and valuable, rather than just completely kind of biased in favor of the sponsor's message. So it can be done, but the sponsorship salespeople are going to have to be very firm with the sponsors about what they put out, and it'd be really good if your content and editorial people could get involved to help curate that content.
Okay, another question is, how important is lead nurturing / demand generation in this? What would be some of the key areas to focus on for a digital team looking to keep hot leads hot until the sales team are ready to purchase?
So this is about leads. I'm not sure I've got the whole question, but it's all about leads. Sorry, you go on, Kirsty.
So just to summarize, so yeah, it's so the leads that we're generating now, because we're not pushing to obviously get people to book onto events right now. So how are we going to keep them warm? So when the time comes that we can convert them, they're still hot essentially, and they'll convert well.
Okay, so I think that's where the content marketing comes in. So being able to serve up some good content around webinars, maybe this is, you know, those quick and easy things like speaker Q&As that you can literally do over the phone and transcribe and push out, or you can do as some kind of recording, getting new speakers on board. So getting some new stuff built into your event, adding those digital elements, all of these types of things will keep the delegates and the leads engaged with you, because they want news about your event. They want to know how you're improving it. They want to know what kind of digital stuff they can get. They want to know what kind of content you're putting out. So all of those things we just described in terms of content marketing, etc., are absolutely key. And then I would encourage you to hold off until you start trying to sell them a ticket. Make sure it's kind of safe to do so. So you know, your idea about keeping them warm, I'm not sure you can keep them hot, but keeping them warm is really key to that. And actually, you know, the most important thing is trust. They've got to trust that you are actually trying to deliver what you committed to delivering for them, and that you're doing everything you can. And if you try and if you're too pushy with a sales piece, they're just going to get annoyed, and that kind of trust is going to disappear. And if you go completely silent, of course, if you're not communicative enough, that trust will also erode a little bit. We do one more question, Kirsty, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. Okay, so with increasing digital event content being published, where is the balance, do you think, for companies that are already selling digital products from publishing arms, especially as businesses like ours are relying heavily on the publishing arm, monetizing more digital content to currently make up the event revenue shortfall?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Sorry. So Kirsty, maybe you could.
So as we're trying to increase the digital content that we're creating and pushing out there from an event perspective, how is that balanced with companies that are already selling digital products from their publishing arm?
Okay, so that's a tricky one, actually, because if people are paying for that content via subscription, which you want to maintain that value, then you do need to be careful about how much of that digital content you share. And this is where that event specific content comes in. So there'll be a lot of elements of your event within your event that wouldn't normally be included in these kind of magazines or online publications, or, you know, newsletters or whatever, portals, whatever they might be. So things like speaker Q&A, things like polls you could do, surveys you could do. You're going to have to create new and unique stuff, but it's probably going to be more bite-sized than what is being put out in some of your digital products. So, and things that are really relevant to your speakers and to the very specific kind of topics of your event. But as we say, kind of more bite-sized, more frequent, valuable, but probably shorter form content. So those are the things you need to think about, and also think about what your sponsors can offer you. I think that is actually a really, really big challenge around maintaining that subscriptions value if you're giving away free content to your events. I think possibly that's where newsletter could really help. So newsletter wouldn't degrade what you're putting out in your publication, as long as kind of half of it is focused on the event itself and how the event is being enhanced, and what they'll get out of it when they eventually do get to attend it. I think we're going to wrap up now. 1 minute left. Thank you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. We had over 80 attendees, which is fantastic. I hope we helped you work out some of your challenges. Please share with us anything you can around how you are currently approaching your events. Please do Let us know if you'd like to contribute something via one of our webinars or our blogs. We're opening up all of our, we always have, we're sharing everything with everyone that we can learn. We're not a publisher, we're not an events business. So we're not trying to protect content at the moment. So if you want to, share stuff with us, if you want us to share stuff with you, we're really happy to help. So please do get in touch. Thank you very much indeed for your participation. And have a very good weekend, everyone. Relax, enjoy yourselves this weekend, have a good rest, and good luck for next week. All the best. Thank you.